Hi again then guys, and welcome to another speed build on Forza Horizon 3, and this time we've got a car which is a little bit slower than some of the others which we would typically build. A lot slower, in fact, around say 50 miles per hour off the speed that some of the supercars in the game can do. Because this is of course not a supercar, it's a classic homologated rally car for the road. The Renault 5 Turbo, mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, or at least to begin with, and the performance on this car, for what it is, in a similar way to stuff like the Audi Quattro, is really good, really impressive. The top-end performance isn't as quick as a supercar, but for a hot hatch from back in the day, it's quick alright. Now, I would recommend the V8 race engine conversion, gives you the best numbers to be working with. I would also, of course, recommend all-wheel drive. Some people might not want that, but I would recommend it. For the aspiration, the twin-turbo is a pretty obvious option. As far as the visuals, you do have a lot to work with. You've got the full body kit options that you've got the rims, you've got tyres, you've got anti-roll cages, or roll cages, not anti-roll. All that kind of stuff is down to you. And of course, by definition, the paint job, the livery, is also down to you. Now, if you like the way the car looks as is, and you'd like to get this tuned straight on your car, you can find it on my storefront. So just use the keywords down below to find that quickly and easily. But if you'd rather do it yourself, which if you're here, chances are you probably would, then of course this is the tune for you. Now, as far as the rest, visuals aside, the rest of the stuff that you need to do is pretty obvious. Lower the weight as much as possible, but at the same time increase the power as much as possible. And if you have the choice between the two, go for power instead of weight. As a track car, that does not apply, but in a straight line, it does. Now, for the benchmark, 3.5 to 60 is pretty good, to say the least. 6.5 to 100, not quite as quick, but not exactly slow either. And a top-end speed of 222, for what is basically a rally car at the end of the day, that's more than good enough for most scenarios. Now, the gearbox is similar to some of the others which we've done, with a couple of minor changes. The first one being the final drive. I would recommend 4 on the final drive, then individual gears of 2.9, 2, 1.5, 1.17, 0.95 and 0.78. Alignment, we've got neutral, camber and tow. You don't really need to have either of those on this car, but of course if you want to have some, that's down to you. I've opted for 5 degrees of caster. That's to just stiffen up the steering a little bit more. You could take it lower though if you want more manoeuvrability. Anti-roll we've got on 24 and 26, springs on 21, 38, and I've opted for the highest ride height, again for the off-road aspect. You don't necessarily have to do that though. Again, it's down to personal preference and what you plan to use the car for. For dampers we've got those on 4, 6, 2 and 3. Aero doesn't apply, and as far as the diff, I've opted for 100% on acceleration, 0 on decel. But of course, as always, feel free to swap those around. If you know a setup that works better for you, or if you just want to try something different, that's fine, go ahead and do that. And for the centre split, as you can see, I've opted for 80% towards the back wheels. And that 20% at the front makes just enough of a difference to really help out off-road, and of course, with launch off the line. So that's it for the tune, and as I said, you can find it on my storefront. But now let's take it out on the road to see if it can actually hit that speed. Now, as I mentioned, of course, a vehicle like this is not designed for that top-end performance. It was never intended for that. But in a similar way to some others like the Delta and the Audi Quattro, it dispatches itself and dispatches that top-end performance in a very respectable way. It's a quick car, and although the top-end performance isn't as rabid as, say, a high-end exotic, which is specifically designed for that, it gets there pretty quickly. And of course, being a rally-bred vehicle, you can take it off-road and still have great performance without suddenly putting the car into an environment that it doesn't really want to be in, which is typically what would happen with an exotic. So overall, it's a good multi-purpose vehicle, and although it's not necessarily going to dominate all racing situations, you can change and chop this tune down to different car ratings if you need to use it for different things. So if you decide to use this tune or get it from my storefront, either way I hope you have a lot of fun with it, and of course you can check out many more on the channel. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.